Welcome to the Overthinking and Outthink podcast, the show where we turn overthinking into powerful action. I'm Andrew Chavez, and if you've ever felt like your mind is racing in a million directions and you're looking to see it to your advantage, you're in the right place. This podcast is all about helping introverts like you to stop overthinking and start outthinking. Whether you're building your online business, leveling up your leadership at your 9-to-5, or just finding ways to own your quiet power, every episode will leave you with actionable tips and inspiring stories to help you take the next step with purpose and confidence. So if you're ready to stop overthinking and start out thinking, let's dive in. So welcome back to Overthinking and Outthink podcast. I'm Andrew Chavez, and this is the podcast where analytical minds are used for the best business assets. You know, this week I did something crazy, and it's out of my character being an introvert. Usually I overthink everything, and believe me, I've been overthinking this one, but I, at my age, 61, am getting me a new Bernie Doodle puppy. It's a miniature Bernie Doodle, and they're so cute, but I don't know. What do you guys think? This is the most beautiful little puppy I've ever seen. I think this little puppy deserves a great home, and he's going to be just fine with my little boxer mix. He's over here, see him? That's Obi, and it's time to get him a little friend. So tell me your thoughts about that. But this week, we're talking about tackling something that frustrates introverts big time, and that's how to actually get your ideas heard in the workplace when you're not the loudest in the room. It's so crazy the way that years have gone by and how different people look at introverts. I remember back in the day that, they just looked at me personally as this quiet guy that, didn't speak up very much. And, I was bypassed on a lot of projects. Everything kind of went around me, and it was because they thought I was quiet. So I guess they thought quiet people are just not very intelligent or just don't handle projects very well. But what they didn't know is that I was already thinking 3 times beyond what they're already thinking in these projects. With our overthinking, the way we kind of go into every detail in our head, we already know what's going to happen. We already foresee issues that are coming up in the future. We're already investigating things in our mind that could happen and things that will lead us to a win, right? But what's worse is being in a meeting or being at the workplace and you're not being heard. Or you're in a meeting and you're trying to gather the information, and while you're thinking about it, all these ideas are being blurted out by the extroverts, and everyone thinks they're the greatest ideas since sliced bread or since pizza or whatever the heck you want to use. And to be honest, some of those ideas, I think to myself, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my life. They're not really thinking it through. Or even worse, when you finally do blurt out what you believe is the right way to approach on these projects, nobody listens. And then all of a sudden, some extrovert or somebody that's loud says the exact same thing. And what do? They think, great job, that's a great idea. And you're like going, what the hell? Yeah, that kind of stuff has happened to me in my career. And at a certain point, I thought, this is going to end now because I've got to do something about it. But I got to be strategic, and I'm going to start thinking about how I could get to these people and get in their mind before they go out there and start listening to all these crazy ideas. Because I have, and I know you guys do too, I have already thought about the perfect solutions, or at least solutions to start. We've already mapped it out. We've already got the process down. So I had to figure out how I was going to get to these managers and to these VPs and let them know where I come from. So today I'm going to share some practical ideas that you can do that'll get attention without you having to change who you are or to become louder than you really need to be. I mean, you can get noticed just by being who you are. We don't have to change who we are. All of these powers that you possess as an introvert are perfect for business. They're perfect for the workplace, and they're perfect for starting an online business. Just need to know and understand how to use these things and what process to get them going and to get them noticed. And I was able to figure this out for myself. I want to share that with as many introverts as I can so that you don't have to wait your whole career before you start moving up the ladder. I've figured it out. I've got some step-by-step ways to get you noticed so that you can start getting those raises and those promotions that you deserve, because you do deserve them. You've already outthought all these people, but they just don't hear you, and they're just used to not hearing you, so they just bypass you. The challenge isn't about having less valuable ideas. It's about different communication, timing, and styles. Extroverts just tend to process things by blurting things out loud. And usually they're just half thought out ideas or processes. And they're missing the whole point of the project. And their ideas do get refined through the process, but you've already bypassed all of that. You've already been thinking ahead and getting those ideas where they need to be. And that's because we process internally first, right? And then we determine what the best course of action is, and then that's when we jump in. And what's negative about this is that you tend to speak up less frequent, even though your contributions may be more thought out. I've talked about this before. At a certain point in my career, I wanted to move up, so I thought, well, I'm going to talk to my manager and see what it takes and what I'm going to need to be able to get to that point where I need to get that promotion that I really did deserve. And when I met with him, first thing he said is, you're just too quiet. You need to be louder. You need to push your way through. And I was thinking to myself, really? Does he not know that I've already figured out most of the solutions before they've even started thinking about it? I guess not. So at that point, I thought, you know what? I've got to come up with a process for myself that gets me to those points where I can get those promotions and raises, because I know I've got the solutions. I've got to just get them to understand who I am and where I'm coming from. Because I'm not going to just start blurting things out there and start being just unauthentic, because I'm a genuine person and I'm not going to change who I am. And that's not being stubborn. It's just telling the truth. I mean, they just need to understand who we are as people and how we think, and maybe we'll start moving up the ladder. Because you know what? Things have changed through the years, and introverts are looked at a lot differently than they used to be. It used to be so negative to be an introvert, but now people are looking at us like, you know what? They've got great ideas. We can trust them because they've thought things through. They have good communication amongst their peers, and introverts are becoming great leaders because of all of these changes through the years that have come out. So today, I'm going to talk about 5 communication strategies that work for introverts in the workplace. And these are practical approaches that I've used in my career that have helped me move up the ladder quickly once I figured them out. Number 1 is the preparation advantage. Most introverts prepare thoroughly, which gives you a great communication advantage, especially when used strategically. So some of the ways that you could leverage these strengths is to take 10 to 15 minutes before your meeting. You've got the agenda, so just take the time to jot down some things that you can go into the meeting with so that you can speak up when the time is right. And then frame your ideas in terms of specific benefits or solutions with the problems that they're facing with. And then figure out some ways to express these points, aiming for 30 seconds or less per idea. And then find 1 or 2 places in the agenda where your ideas would be most relevant. What makes this work is that your ideas are going to be more to the point and more precise to the problem way before everybody's even had a chance to think about it and start blurting out in their loud way that they usually do. Number 2 is the early momentum technique. Many introverts find it easier to speak up earlier in the meeting before group dynamics take over. So just use this to your advantage. I mean, just aim to take these points just 5 to 10 minutes into the meeting when it first begins, before everybody starts, getting down to the nitty-gritty. Start with something simple that establishes your presence. And that could be just like a question or a brief comment, or just something that kind of backs up somebody else's opinion or their idea. The point is to use this early so that you can get some momentum going into the rest of the meeting. So I've been in meetings where I was thinking about ideas, and as I hear the problems, I have some solutions in my mind, but people just keep blurting out stuff and I never get my point out. So if you hit this earlier in the meeting and you've already prepared for it, I think it sets the tone for people to start listening to you. It makes it easier to just get it out later into the meeting. So just for example, somebody says, well, there's a supply chain issue that we're having right now. And just say, well, what's your idea to solve that supply chain issue? I mean, something simple like that, just to start the conversation going with other people, but you're being heard because you're actually listening to them, which they're probably not used to in the first place. Number 3 is the Advocates Alliance. And this involves people that understand and know you and who can amplify your ideas. I mean, you can do this by identifying 1 or 2 colleagues that have the same communication issues that you deal with. And you guys can use the same techniques to help each other out. And then you can agree with each other's contributions before they get overlooked like they have been in the past. I mean, you can even redirect the topics later in the conversation. You can say like, well, I'd like to go back to what we were talking about earlier, to what so-and-so said, and then kind of just reiterate what they said. That helps you guys out, both of you, as if you're both introverts or both having communication issues within the meeting, because then you can just back each other up. I mean, there's nothing like being able to get some help from people that you trust and that trust you so that you can get both of you guys noticed in the same meeting. Getting that support system for those great ideas is so important for an introvert. And we need to capitalize on those situations as often as possible. Number 4 is the written follow-up. One of our best advantages as introverts is our writing styles. So after the meeting, just clearly write what your ideas are or your solutions to the situations and send them out. You don't have to send them to everybody. Send them to people that you trust that are higher up in the organization. And the more you do this, the more you'll get noticed. I mean, you can frame it where you can say, I've thought about it and I've come up with these additional insights. And just focus on maybe 1 or 2 key points, because you don't want to go and have solutions for every single point that they had in the meeting, even though you probably do. But yeah, just keep it down, keep it simple, and send it to the right people. And what makes this good is that it keeps a record of your contribution so that you can always refer back to it, or other people do the same thing. What works for me is in my meetings, I'll record them. If you can record them, it helps so much because you can always go back and listen to every point in the meeting, and then you can send that written email out that hits certain points that people have already forgotten. And number 5 is the strategic format. It's okay to change a format into a way that you understand it better. Introverts often struggle in rapid-fire group discussions, but you excel in other formats. So come up with a different format that works better for you and get it out there. One way to do this is to capture ideas in many of the different brainstorming strategies. Really what this does is it changes the game. Instead of changing the rules that could be very difficult for you to understand or for you to, as an introvert, to be able to participate in. It kind of brings it back to a level playing field. So wrapping this up, finding ways to communicate isn't to make you more extroverted or loud. It's just to try to turn things back into, like I said, a level playing field where that you can participate and be more comfortable. Your thoughtful, refining approach isn't something to overcome. You can refine it so that it works more into your advantage. And just start with 1 or 2 of the techniques we talked about today and just use them to figure out how you can become more strategic and to help you to become more in the forefront instead of having to be loud and becoming somebody else that you aren't. And then you can always expand your communicative toolkit as time goes on. But this is a great start. You got to start somewhere, because obviously you're not getting seen and you're not getting the raises and you're not getting the promotions that you deserve. So by taking these steps, or just a few of these steps, it's going to help you get to a place where you can at least be seen and trusted, so that they can start identifying you and seeing that you can contribute in a positive way and in a strong way, because you already, like I said, have been thinking about all the solutions and you're already 3 or 4 steps ahead of everybody anyway. Next week, we're going to continue to build on these ideas to notice what works best for you and feels more natural. And we are going to explore how to turn your introverted strengths to turn you into an exceptional leader. You are a leader. Sometimes you just can't help it. You have everything in place for you to become that leader that everyone's looking for. And then that's when you're going to start seeing yourself get catapulted up the ladder and start seeing those raises come and seeing those promotions come like they should. So remember, your analytical mind isn't what's holding you back. It's your greatest adventure. Don't become somebody you're not, or don't try to be somebody you're not, like an extrovert or somebody loud. Take those awesome powers that you have as an introvert and use them to your advantage. Don't change yourself. You be you. This is Andrew Chavez, and you've been listening to Overthinking to Outthink. If this episode resonated with you, share it with another deep thinker in your life. And don't forget to subscribe for more strategies on turning your internal dialogue into external success. Until next time, keep thinking deeply and keep acting strategically. And most of all, you be you.